Welcome to Linghe Daily, your go-to source for all things Zhang Linghe. There's something intriguing about the public attention Zhang Linghe has been receiving lately. When her name comes up at a major event and the cameras are focused on her appearance, many people might immediately assume the conversation will center on fashion, brands, or her public appearance. But this time it wasn't Gucci that had some fans buzzing again. A seemingly simple moment reignited an old conversation that seemed unfinished. And of course, the name that resurfaced in the conversation was Tian Xiwei. Was this really a clue? Or was it all just a coincidence, magnified by the fans' attention? Zhang Linghe is certainly used to being the center of attention. Every appearance at a public event always has its own charm. From her outfit, to her facial expressions, to her gestures when greeting fans, to the brief moment when the camera caught her paying attention, everything can become a topic of conversation. This is what makes even a simple moment sometimes seem much bigger than it actually is. In this case, fans' attention wasn't solely focused on Zhang Linghe's appearance, but also on the nuances of a moment that reminded many of Tian Xiwei. And as usual, when these two names are mentioned again in a conversation, fans' curiosity immediately peaks. Objectively, there's no reason to immediately conclude that Zhang Linghe was conveying a specific message to Tian Xiwei. There's no confirmation that the moment directly concerns him, and there's no official statement mentioning a special connection between the two. However, the fandom has its own way of interpreting moments. The chemistry they displayed in their previous projects creates a particularly strong memory for some viewers. Even when the two aren't performing together, a single expression, a style, or a specific situation can make fans spontaneously connect it to old memories. This is what seems to be happening again now. Interestingly, what makes this moment feel different is how fan reactions unfold. Initially, attention may have been solely focused on Zhang Linghe and his appearance. But then comments emerged that reminded them of Tian Xiwei. Some fans simply reminisce about their interactions, others reminisce about their chemistry, and still others feel that the combination of Zhang Linghe and Tian Xiwei's names has an inexplicable appeal. But it's important to distinguish between fandom reactions and facts. When fans say they remember someone, it doesn't necessarily mean that person was actually involved in the moment. The audience's feelings and the reality on the ground are two different things. For many viewers, the reason Tian Xiwei resurfaces is actually quite simple. Zhang Linghe and Tian Xiwei already left a strong impression through the projects that brought them together. When two actors have a natural chemistry on screen, viewers often carry that memory long after the scene is over. Even small details in an actor's performance can rekindle the atmosphere of a character or on-screen couple they once loved. So, when Zhang Linghe appears with a certain aura, some fans may automatically recall the dynamic they saw with Tian Xiwei. This is more a matter of the power of the audience's memory than evidence of anything going on in their personal lives. And this is precisely the most interesting part. We live in an era where a few seconds of video can take on a life of its own on social media. A single frame can be cropped, enlarged, added to music, and then shared countless times. Afterward, people begin to give their own interpretations. A moment that was initially quite ordinary can seem imbued with meaning once placed in a specific context. Zhang Linghe doesn't need to say anything. Even a neutral expression can spark fans' curiosity. When Tian Xiwei's name later appears in the comments section or in fandom discussions, a new narrative is formed. But again, fan narratives are not the same as confirmation from both parties. What makes Zhang Linghe always interesting to follow is her ability to generate attention, even when she's not doing anything controversial. She can appear at an event, conduct brand activities, greet fans, and then one small moment from her appearance becomes the topic of discussion. Popularity like this makes every move highly scrutinized. And when someone already has a strong history of projects with other actors, public attention becomes even more complex. Therefore, it's not surprising that Tian Xiwei is mentioned again when fans see something that reminds them of the past. There's also another aspect that makes this conversation even more interesting. Zhang Linghe and Tian Xiwei both have ever-evolving careers. Neither of them stops at one project or one character. Each has new activities, jobs, and works that keep them in the conversation. Precisely because both continue to pursue their own projects, nostalgia for old moments becomes even more palpable for some fans. When each appears separately, viewers sometimes wonder what it would be like to see them share the screen again. Questions like this don't always mean a new project is on the horizon. Sometimes it just shows how strong an impression a pairing once left on screen. And of course, the internet has an interesting habit of reviving something that never truly went away. An old photo can go viral. A still can resurface. An old comment can be rediscovered. Then, social media algorithms brought everything together into a new conversation. Zhang Linghe and Tian Xiwei's names were once again in the discussion forum. For longtime fans, this might feel nostalgic. For new fans, it might be an excuse to learn more about their previous chemistry. For viewers who simply follow Zhang Linghe's career, this could be a reminder that a screen couple's popularity doesn't always end when their project ends. However, there's one thing we need to be careful about. We shouldn't let fandom enthusiasm turn a simple moment into unfounded conclusions. When discussing two public figures, especially those who frequently receive attention for their on-screen chemistry, we need to be careful to distinguish between what actually happened and what is merely interpretation. In the absence of an official statement from Zhang Linghe, Tian Xiwei, their agencies, or reliable sources, then any discussion of their personal relationship should remain speculation. We can enjoy their on-screen chemistry, but their personal lives remain an area we shouldn't speculate about. Looking at it from an entertainment perspective, this moment becomes even more interesting. Why did Zhang Linghe's appearance bring Tian Xiwei back to the spotlight? The answer may not be because there's something hidden, but rather because the two have created a strong memory for the audience. Chemistry in a drama can leave an emotional imprint. When viewers see one of the actors appear again in a different setting, their brains automatically connect that image to the character and couple they knew before. This is a very common phenomenon in the entertainment world. And the stronger the chemistry the audience feels, the more easily those memories are recalled. It's even possible that some fans aren't actually looking for any proof. They simply want to relive the feeling of first seeing Zhang Linghe and Tian Xiwei together. That's why moments like this can be so emotional for the fandom. It's not because of a big announcement, but because one small incident can bring them back to a time when the two actors were the center of attention together. For some, such nostalgia is enough to make a moment feel special. And when nostalgia meets social media popularity, the conversation can naturally grow very quickly. Interestingly, this kind of attention also shows how powerful chemistry is in the Chinese drama industry. Audiences not only remember the story, but also how the two characters look at each other, talk, joke, or even remain silent in a scene. Chemistry that successfully makes the audience believe in the character's relationship can linger in the memory longer than expected. Therefore, when one of the actors reappears in a major event, fans may immediately associate them with the on-screen couple that once impressed them. Zhang Linghe and Tian Xiwei are one example of how audiences' memories can live on even when both are engaged in their own activities. And if we return to this moment with Zhang Linghe, it's precisely her simplicity that makes her captivating. There's no need for dramatic scenes.